All right, and we are officially live with episode 11 of Asset Creators. I got Jon Brosio in the building today. Jon, welcome.
What's going on?
What's going
Pleasure to
on,
be
man?
here.
Dude, it's so grateful to have you on the show, man. And most people won't know, but we've actually known each other for a little while now. What do you think? Has it been like 3 years now or something?
I'd say this is the third year, so we're probably not
All
three
right,
complete years,
and
but
we are
this is the
officially
starting the
live
journey
with
of year
episode
numero
11.
three.
Man, it happened so fast, dude. But yeah, welcome. If you don't know Jon, I'm going to do a quick little intro and let you know who he is. But chances are, if you're following me, you know Jon. But so Jon has over 100K followers on LinkedIn and X individually. He has over 11,000 email subs, and he's been in the online space for roughly 9 years. We're going to get into that a little bit more. Jon can tell you a little bit more about his story and how he's, got started and all of that stuff. But if you don't know Jon, after this episode, even if you got to do it right now, go give him a follow. Jon's the guy. He's been in the solo space for 9 years. He knows what he's talking about. And we're going to jump right in. So you can see by the episode of today, winning as a solopreneur in 2026. Lots of things have changed. Things are constantly changing. And before we even get into any of the tactical strategy stuff, I want people to know a little bit more about you, dude. So I know your origin story, right? You used to be a waiter. Some stuff happened. So if you could, please share with us some of how you got started in this.
1,000%. We'll go over the Genesis story. But before I get into that, I'll even say, you mentioned I have 100,000 here, 100,000 there. And we'll get into it more, but just ask my wife. It's not the size, it's how you use it. So I do want to at least double click on that.
Yeah.
That depending on where your audience is, it's more important, I think, how you use that than actually the numbers behind it. But yeah, I got started in this 9 years ago. Actually, January 21st, 2017, I'll never forget it, was kind of the Genesis moment because I had been working as a fine dining server for a number of years at that point. I had tried the corporate world. It wasn't really for me. I was kindly asked to leave at one place. And I had been working in LA as a fine dining server. And the owners say it was a freak accident. I knew the owners. I ran the wine list. I knew that they were kind of in dire straits. So I think it was an insurance scam, but the roof caught fire and the restaurant burned down.
Damn.
Up until that point, being 27 years old, never thought that I would find myself, I come from a blessed background, that I would find myself unemployed and kind of losing employment that I had no control over. And so what I did to kind of cope with it was first file for unemployment. And next was I said, I'm just going to write. I'm going to try to make sense of what's going on in my life. I'm going to write. It didn't matter what I was going to write about, but as long as I wrote, I could see that as a win for the day. And I thought, I'm going to commit to 30 days. Again, it doesn't matter what the output is, but as long as I put the input in for 30 days. 30 days quickly became 9 years, essentially. But there's got to be a psychological term for it, but I never know what it is. But you know when you start doing something and you almost see like cookie crumb trails of that thing almost like revealing itself. It's kind of like if you buy a red car, all you see is red cars.
Yeah.
In a way, it's like similar to that. So when I was writing for 30 days, I started to like see things in the peripheral of just my perception. One of the first things was I saw Quora. I'd never heard of it before. If no one knows what it is, Quora is a platform like Yahoo Answers, but it's kind of actually worth your time. Yahoo Answers is a bunch of crap. And what it is it's a millions of people asking questions that are intended to be non-Google searchable. So it's like more stuff about your perception on life, stuff about your experiences as a human being, things like that. And I was like, well, perfect. I just lost my job. I'd love to share some of the things I'm learning. I'm reading self-improvement books. I'm reading ways to kind of improve my writing. I'm reading all of these things. And very quickly, I started to see patterns of ways answers were written that would go viral. So within the first 90 days, I had my first post go viral for 300,000 views. I thought that I was going to get emails of like book publishers and all these things, like completely delusional. None of that ever happened. It was just like the next minute was exactly the same as before I went viral. But I realized that I was onto something. And so I kept following those cookie crumb trails. I started to reverse engineer how I was structuring content, the topics I was choosing, and various things that were leading to more eyeballs on the things that I was writing. Another thing that happened in early 2018, because I kept writing on Quora, was I found medium.com. The same kind of thing there is I started to write articles, and I was actually using questions on Quora as my writing prompts because there were ways to find what questions were popular. I almost saw that as market research of like, oh, I can see what's in demand, what knowledge is in demand. I'll mesh that with what knowledge I have to provide, and here's a piece of content. In 2022, I took that to Twitter very quickly, again, using the principles that I learned that we can kind of dive into later, built a following over there. And then in early 2023, did the same thing with LinkedIn. I have my sites set on more platforms in 2026. We can get into that. But something that I teach, something that I hold as a personal guiding like business and strategy philosophy is to focus more on the message than the actual medium. What I mean by that is people want to hack the algorithm. People want to learn how to do like infographics that spread like wildfire. None of that really matters if you want to take the next step in building assets that you can monetize in a digital solo content business. And so it's really distilling what the message is, packaging that in a way that is easily digestible on whatever platform you're on to build an audience and then actualize, activate, and monetize that audience. So I know that was a little bit medium-winded, but we can go in multitude of directions, but that's kind of how we find ourselves here today.
Dude, that's great. Thank you for sharing that, man. And I think something that you said was really important there that I say all the time to all my clients and stuff, and I learned as well, is going viral does not mean that you are going to get a bunch of business, a bunch of really anything. And I think that's a big lesson there. But so one thing that's really cool that I love about what you said is how you would take questions that people were already asking and turn them into content. And that probably made it easier for you when you started writing long form on Medium, right? Because instead of having to come up with an idea, you would just find what are people looking for, right? So maybe we could talk a little bit about that before we get into even what's been changing in the solo space and all that stuff, just because we're on the topic. And I think it's really fascinating for other people who are watching this, struggle with creating content or struggle to attract clients or things like that with their content. I think that's a really valuable piece of information. So could you go a little deeper on that?
Of course, yeah. I have a lot of bugaboos in this world that drive me crazy. Platitudes that you see all the time, which is like, just write every day and you'll find success in this world, or like audience first. They drive me crazy because it's when you ask the follow-up question, it's like, cool, what the hell do I write about? If I'm going to write every day, what the hell do I write about?
Yeah.
Had I stayed on the path of it doesn't matter what I write, just that I write for 30 days, like in the very, very beginning of my story, I would not be where I am today. It was realizing, finding these prompts, finding this already like vetted market validation of what people are asking for, and then using that as the springboard to the content that I'm writing.
Yeah.
That actually helped me satisfy demand that was already existing. So what that looked like, excuse me, and you can still do today. It's a smaller portion of what I help my students with, but still part of it is there are ways to go into Quora, for instance, and you just search general keywords, right? Most of the time, the keyword is even going to be broader than your niche, but it's just keywords. Online business, psychology, weight loss, whatever kind of your niche falls into, you're just going to do a basic search. There's ways, we can't really get into it right now in terms of actually like showing you, but hopefully you can follow just with my description. There's ways to filter and kind of sort based on popularity of the questions that come through when you search for those keywords. And what you do is you're just kind of going through and seeing what questions are popular over time, still have activity, and use that if you have knowledge, insight, expertise to add to the conversation to that question. You simply answer it. Starting off, without even worrying about formatting, without even worried about packaging, without even worried about hooks and structure and all that stuff. It's important, but in the very beginning, don't even care about that. And just start answering it. Because what happens, and where I'm at, where some of my more advanced students are at, is you just build a Rolodex in your head now of content pillars that I'm going to talk about. And the write every day kind of maxim almost becomes second nature, because it's like, I've gone through thousands, like for me, thousands of questions that I'm like, interesting. Okay, I'm going to store that. I'm going to store that. And now I've written about it 100 times, that same question, but I've written about it in 100 different ways. Yeah. I have these shortcuts I can go to. But when you don't have that Rolodex, when it's like going to the gym, when you don't have those reps, write every day is like, well, what the hell do I write about? What the hell is my content about? And it's like, use tools to your advantage. People, the demand is there. You just need to satisfy it. That's the way that I went. I know other people go other ways.
Okay. And so a follow-up to that, like when I hear you say that, would be, how much are you looking at the feedback? So it's like, okay, cool. I'm getting these questions from Cora or wherever. Let's say, some of them hit, some of them don't. How much are you actually looking at, whether it's through your email or social media, your analytics, and how much are you actually looking to see what's resonating, what's not resonating? Like, is that a thing you're doing, or?
So in terms of like that actual tactic that I was using, I don't do that anymore.
Okay.
My feedback loop is more with the audience that I have now.
Yeah.
Right? Like their feedback tells me what is resonating specifically to them, not some borrowed audience. What I will do now though too is look at the analytics of how certain content is doing, and kind of, it's an art and a science, but I'm looking at like, okay, and now there's even like AI tools that I use to go into my entire portfolio and kind of do the analysis and then digest me something like quick and bite-sized. But even before, it was more manual of like, okay, I've used this version of a hook 25 different times. I've just changed up maybe the word, I've changed the topic, I've changed up. Cool, check mark. That one's good. We know that works. This topic, I've had X amount of posts get Y in terms of their analytic results. Okay, we're gonna use that over and over and over and over again. So yeah, I will actually look at the analytics side, say what topics are working, what structures are working. Before it was kind of like, let's just answer all these questions and we're not even going to care what the output is. We're just going to use this so I can develop the skill of writing every day. I can develop the cadence and the discipline of writing every day. And I'm not just shooting blanks out of the top of my head. I'm actually listening to real human beings out there that are asking these questions that they want answers to.
Gotcha. Yeah. And that's a really good point there about your audience. Once you aggregate and accumulate enough people, you don't even have to go out there and find them. You can just test them on your own audience, right? And so just for somebody who maybe isn't quite there yet, would you recommend them like looking at their metrics? Obviously not daily. We don't want to, become a slave to that. But I'm just curious for like the average solopreneur out there who's got maybe 5,000 followers. How long would you keep like testing ideas or questions you find externally versus like just your audience?
One thing that I still deal with, though I hate to admit it, is I have an ego when it comes to asking for help. I don't know where it came from, but whatever. I see it as a positive and negative, because it's like, I'll just do it myself. But also there are times where I procrastinate on maybe leveling up because I haven't asked for help.
Yeah.
I would say looking at your analytics becomes such more of a valuable tool when you have scaffolding in place where you can hold for certain variables. So what do I mean by this? If you're just looking at your analytics every single day and you don't really have like a system, a framework, or guidance on how a strategy of how you're going to be putting out content, you're just looking at your analytics because you wrote 5 times last week or you did 30 days last month, but there's no rhyme or reason to the 30 days. Looking at your analytics isn't going to tell you anything.
Yeah.
But if it's like, okay, whether I actually hired someone, I got this resource, I've collaborated with people, I've asked someone for help, and they've given me a structure that's proven to work with them and maybe a population that they work with. Now looking at the analytics, I'd probably say like monthly, because you'll drive yourself crazy if you do it every day. Like I have an investment portfolio. I cannot look at that every day or I'll go insane. I can't look at my analytics every day or I'll go insane. And so when you have actually like a scaffolding of some sort of direction you should be heading in, looking at your analytics, you just get better insights. But if you don't know what you're looking for, if you don't know what variables to hold for, again, you're just going to be running in circles.
Dude, yeah, I love that, man. And it's very relevant to even where I'm at right now, because one of my goals this year is growing my email list, right? So I'm obviously plugging it as my CTAs on my content and on these episodes. And I'm looking to see like how many email subs did I get? Oh, how come this email on this topic got more subs than this one or whatever, right? So like, I think that's a really good point, right? It's like, what is my goal? And then you're going to reverse engineer the metrics from there. Not, oh my goodness, did I get likes on this post or, right? So I love that, man. That's really good advice. Cool. Okay, man. Well, let's move forward a little bit. I wanted to chat a little bit about the main idea of this episode, which is going to be, there's so much changing, right? You and I both know we've been here the last few years when AI first came in and how that's looked and how much the algorithms are changing and all of these things. So I really want to talk to you specifically, especially because you've been in the solo space so long, is what do you see not working anymore in 2026 that used to work for you or your clients or, both?
I think one of the biggest shifts because of AI and because of just saturation, one of the biggest shifts that I've noticed is, and it is cliche, it's been used a lot, even before AI, even before saturation, but is the idea of trust with whatever audience you have. Can you still go super viral creating, let's just look at LinkedIn, creating infographics? Probably. I've never created one. I've never really had the interest, mainly because I've seen too, like what happens when you emphasize audience growth over audience activation. The commoditized content is dying, if it's not already dead. What that is like 8 ways to ace your next interview built in an infographic that you can get off Canva, whatever. It'll get 1,000 likes. People will go crazy for it. But when you actually want to take that next step with someone, they have no damn clue who you are outside of the profile picture that you have on your page. Right?
Yeah.
This isn't my original idea, but it's something that I'm building 2026 and beyond around. Something that I'm relaying to my students is people buy the coach before they buy the coaching. Maybe you've even heard this said before, is people are already sold on me through various ways, through my email list, through my content, through the resources that I give, through paid products that I don't ask a lot for in terms of investment. We can get into why I sell like low ticket products even still today. I want to build trust as much as I can for people that actually want to work with me. Not that they want the transformation, not that they want the actual system, not that they want all of the systematic and tactical things to reach their goal, but they actually want to work with me as well. Because I would probably want to work with that person, right? Like attracts like. I think there are ways you can put that into content. There are ways you can put that into your lead magnets, into your products, into your everything downstream. Is you as the creator, as the coach, to help build trust for your, like, to use Kevin Kelly's phrasing, like dream fans, right? Or true fans, excuse me. I think that's the biggest shift that we're going to see already right now and going forward.
Gotcha. And so do you think a lot of that, especially the trust specifically, of course, the commoditized content, all the AI content, all of those things, do you think it also has to do with just the fact that maybe, because obviously there's never been more competitors and people trying to win online and make more money online, right? As 2018, even though I wasn't actually creating or running a business back then, a lot of like some of the courses I've taken and people I've talked to who were, you could just send somebody a DM and be like, hey, do you want this? And you could get a client, right? Now it's like there's 20 people in their DMs doing the same thing, right? So do you think a lot of that has to do with not just the fact that the content's commoditized, there's AI, but just the competition? I know you talked about the saturation and people are just maybe been burned a lot, or why do you think the trust is more important than ever now, like specifically?
I think that's part of it. I think this is harder to measure.
Of course.
But part of this is a little bit crazy. I've actually never like thought about this out loud until right now, but you asked such a good question that I think we're going to be experimenting with this together. We remember information, depending on how good your brain is at remembering things, whatever. And information can lead you to transformation. But we remember with emotion how someone made us feel. And I think the trust element is speaking to that other person on the other side of whatever content it is, if it's video, if it's what, and making that person, I know the people that I've hired, the people that I've wanted to collaborate with, even speaking to you right now, like there's certain feelings I've gotten from interacting with you that actually helps bridge that gap. And so I think that because of all the saturation, because AI is like emotionless, right? What's going to separate us in this like huge cluttered sea is how you can make, whether it's your dream client, your customer, your audience member, your email subscriber, like how you can make them feel. I try to inject that as much as I can, more in my email than in my content, because I just see the relationship of like when you open your email inbox, it's different than when you're just going like this on your phone.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do think a lot of it just has to do with like, are you making people feel seen, and are you making people feel heard with your content and your like offer being the vehicle of like, this is where we're heading, but the personal side of you is what's building trust.
Dude, let's talk about that a little bit more. I think that's super, super profound in a way, because of course we all have learned, if you've been writing online or anything, it's like, oh, use emotion words and all that stuff, right? But you're going deeper. You're saying like making them feel seen, understood, how they feel when they consume your content, right? So how, like, even just if you could give me one example and us, the audience, like what's a tactical way that you would actually do that?
So I think one of them, and I know because I've hired a client strictly because of this, is your origin story. And I think you can have not multiple origin stories, but you can have like multiple entry points into the origin story. So the first one that we talked about was how I really got started writing online, right? Through this fire. And I've had people hire me because they're like, I'm from the restaurant industry too, right?
Yeah.
One thing that really affected my imposter syndrome starting off, was I would look to other people in my niche and space. The big one being Justin Welsh, who was this VP of sales for ZocDoc. And then he built this solo business, and it was like, I'll never be that. So no one's ever going to give a damn about what I have to say. Well, that's not necessarily true, because I've proven that otherwise with clients that I've brought on that said, your origin story is why I resonated with you. Another origin story that my wife has actually helped extract from me, I've actually never shared this publicly, so it's going to be the first time.
That's cool.
But one of the reasons that I am doing this, again, all roads lead back to ego, I think. One of the reasons that I'm doing this is I come from a blessed background where my dad is an entrepreneur. He's in manufacturing, but and we lived a middle-class life. But he one day asked me, I want you to run the business. Even though I have an older brother, and usually kind of like the stereotypical is like the oldest brother, whatever, and I was like, well, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to prove to myself I can do something. Like, I don't want to just take this thing and take the easy way out.
Yeah.
Whether that's ego talking, I don't know, but that's the narrative I put in my head. And so part of my mission is to like just prove to myself that I can do it on my own, right? Even though I was handed this key to a comfortable life. I've never said that publicly, but it's something I'm injecting more, especially into my emails. Because my wife was like, I think people will resonate with that story more than they'll resonate with you were working as a server, this
Totally.
fire happened, you were confused, and you wanted to write to make sense of the world around you, right? I'm sure there's another like entry point into my world as to like my mission, how I view the world, and why I have this vehicle that I'm like driving, trying to attract more attention, trying to get more people on this train. And I'm going to do it through that story because that's going to make someone feel a certain way, right? This inherent need to prove something to yourself. Cool. Your solo business is the vehicle I can help you build so you can prove that to yourself. That's another way again of hoping, and tactically I take like my own personal history, package it into a story, send it out into the world, and hopefully it gravitates towards the right people. That's the experiment that I'm running.
Dude,
So.
yeah, I mean, man, that's great. And just for some real-time feedback for you, I mean, that resonates with me. Absolutely, right? I feel like that, well, not even just feel like, I know that will resonate with a lot of entrepreneurs because I feel like entrepreneurship in itself is, for a lot of people, a way to prove yourself and whether it's externally or internally. And one of the content, like my framework for writing content that I teach all my clients it's called the AAA framework. And it's authority, authenticity, and alignment, right? So each of those, your content needs to hit one of those A's. And what you just described is the alignment for me. It's your values, your beliefs, and your worldviews. You need to share those because when you do, you're going to attract people who are aligned, that's the alignment, with your beliefs, your worldview, and your values, right? And so what you just said is like, absolutely, man. And I think a lot of people who maybe, and kind of like you just said, you make them feel seen because maybe they've never actually said it out loud or thought it, right? And they see Jon write this email like, holy crap, like me and Jon have so much in common or whatever, right? So, dude, thank you. That's a great answer. So thanks for that.
And again, I think it just like to sum it all up comes back to like they buy the coach before the coaching. There's a huge menu that people can order from to get the same or a very similar transformation that I'm offering. That's in my core offer, right? That is the epicenter of my business.
Yeah.
But people choose me over probably even people that are less expensive because of that alignment. I love that word. So
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's great. Okay, man. So is there anything else specifically you think maybe that you haven't seen that used to work that isn't? We talked about the content, like the broad, generic, top of funnel content. What else? Anything else stand out that you're like, damn, it's not working?
So yes, it's kind of like a genesis of my offer where I think people fall in. This has been around for a couple of years now, even like before AI and stuff. But an experience happened where this big creator, in terms of audience size, messaged me, and I had already monetized. I've already built like a decent kind of income revenue engine. And this person sent me a DM and they said, hey, I've built this audience of 300,000 followers. How do I monetize? And I said, awesome. So like, happy for you. Quick question. Who is your audience? And he responded, what do you mean? And immediately I was like, oh, shoot. I know we're on LinkedIn. He fell into the audience first trap, not even audience first, but like the attention first trap.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people do it where it's like, you're just following. If we even go back to like the analytics side, if you're following without like a path to lead you down, you're just following what is like hitting, not even what's like resonating. You can run into like, well, now when I want to activate that audience and ask for their money, their hard-earned money, I don't even know what to ask for because I don't even know what people want. Right?
Yeah.
And so one thing that I am against is like the audience first, and that I teach my students is we do offer first. And it's scary sometimes because we're going to map out, like I have various parts of an offer that every offer should have. Again, it doesn't matter who you're serving, but it should have these 4 parts that articulate clearly who it's for, what it's about, how it'll help them get there, those kinds of things.
Okay.
Because once you have that, it's almost kind of a shortcut, or maybe narrowing of like even the market validation stuff we talked about earlier, where it's like, okay, I have these prompts. I know what questions I'm going to answer, and that's going to be the backbone of my content. When you have an offer, you know what your vehicle is, right? You know what direction you want to head. I know I want to help this person achieve this thing, and this is how we're going to achieve it in its simplest terms. Generally, this is how we're going to achieve it, is what I call the path of an offer. It's the path you're going to lead someone down to help achieve it. That path is going to take multiple steps. 8 times out of 10 with my clients, it's 3 steps. We do this first, we do this next, then we get to the end goal. Sometimes it's 4. I've had a client that it was like 8. Doesn't really matter. Those steps, I teach people, become the pillars of your content. Your end goal is always this. Nice. Now we're gonna take from step number 2, which is this side of it, this step of it, right?
Gotcha.
Super basic, but like weight loss. The ultimate goal is we're going to help you lose 2 pounds and 3 sizes on your belt size or your waistline, right? First step we're going to do is we're going to uncover why the old workouts that you were doing didn't work. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to build you a custom workout plan suited to your needs. Third thing we're going to do is we're going to dial in your nutrition. 3 easy things. Figure out why it didn't work, develop a custom plan, and dial in your food. Those 3 things I can go back and forth, talking about in terms of content, injecting in my personal story of how I couldn't lose weight until I realized these things, about how I was 350 pounds in 2010, making all this stuff up, obviously. Yeah. But using that as the vehicle, I know what direction I'm going. So when I get to 10,000, when I get to 50,000, when I get to 100,000 followers, those followers know exactly what the hell I was talking about. They tuned in because the vehicle, my offer, was taking them there. So again, it's not really like audience first still works, but it's a very slippery slope and can be a trap if you're not conscious of where you want to take those people. And so this is, again, something I built my entire ecosystem around, is like my offer guides everything. And then I inject, to steal your words, like I inject my authenticity, my authority, and my alignment into that. I didn't even realize I was doing it, but you articulated it very well. So again, when people hop on the train, they know exactly where we're going.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude, I love that. And having your offer be your foundation for everything it sounds so obvious, right? But it's so easy to not do that, especially when you get caught up playing like the status games, the viral game. And I think even the audience first is a status game. And I feel like it's, I know it is. I've seen it, that it's a dangerous path. And you read Naval, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he talks a lot about, don't get caught up playing like status games and stuff like that, right? Because when you come in, like for the guy to have 300K followers and not be making any money is ludicrous, right? But and I tell this story a lot too for myself, but it's not or about myself, but it's for my clients, because I made, and you know this because you actually helped me launch my first cohort, right? But I made my first 5K month with like 3,000 followers, and I hit my first 10K month with 7,000 followers. And so I kind of knew inherently when I came into the online space, like I had no marketing background or anything, but something felt inherently wrong about just building an audience. Like it's cool and I look cool and people are going to think I'm cool. But man, I came out of music school. I had no income. Like I was trying to make money. And ideally everyone who's in the online space is trying to make money. That's why you're doing it, right? So I love that you're really hammering that home, man, because it's so easy to get caught up in the status game and not the wealth game, right?
You know what it helps with too is I deal with this a lot with people that I work with, is when we're built, like the first thing people do when they come work with me is we build your offer It's 1,000% the first thing we ever do before we even talk about content, no matter how big your audience is, whatever. And one of the biggest things that I've experienced is people will be like, well, I help this person, but I could also help this person. I can help this person too. And sometimes I've actually thought about maybe I can help this person, and they're spread too thin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think not from like the trust side of things, but just the messaging, the targeting side of things, when you are spread through too thin, that leaks into your content. And if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one is kind of the idea there.
Yeah.
And so like when we work together and it's like, no, with this offer, we're just going to target this person. The reason we're going to do that is, sure, are we disqualifying X percentage of the world? Yeah, but that's a good thing, because when the content starts to come out, we only want to people that are going to ultimately raise their hand and say, yes, I want your help. We don't want to talk to everyone else. And if we just do audience first, it's like, let's just get eyeballs. That's the trap we fall into. We speak to everyone. So it helps with that as well.
Yeah, it dilutes you a lot, man. And a thing that I talk about a lot too, with the content specifically, but offer and all of it, is relevancy, right? It's like, why, like if I'm on YouTube, right, and I'm scrolling through the feed and I see like a basketball highlights, like I'm clicking on that thing before I even know I clicked on it. Why? Because it's relevant to me. It's like, it's a passion of mine. It's a hobby of mine, right? Whereas someone might see knitting and click on that. So it's like, if you're not creating for relevancy for somebody, like you just said, your content's gonna be irrelevant to everybody, right? And so I think that's a really good point that you made there, man. Cool. Okay, well, now that we've kind of chatted a little bit about what's not working anymore, obviously the other side of the coin would be, what do you see working now? Like, what have you seen that's maybe crushing for some of your clients right now, or for you? It could be tactical, a strategy, or it could just be a concept, whatever, man. I just want to, see what's going on in the world of Brosio. What's working?
So it gets more tactical, I think, from the like business structure and the monetization side. Is I love just keeping things as simple as possible. And so the way that I have my entire business structured helps promote that, because I started to make my like first real money in launches. And I had one of my first ever launches. I did 38,000 in a week, and it was like amazing. It was like, cool. I could like keep doing this, periodically. I could see like the roadmap, but it was like, you spend X amount of weeks on the buildup, or even before that, you're like asking people, what would help most, and like trying to build the product out. Then you're doing the buildup. Then you're doing the open cart, then you're launching, then you actually have to deliver. And it's like, it was a lot, just mentally, spiritually, and there was no guarantee, right? And then the next launch, I either had to like improve whatever product or offer I was working with, or create something different. And so now I've built it in a way where I start at my core offer, which I have it structured in a way where people can work with me for a specific amount of time or ongoing, because new things are always going to be happening, and everything starts from there. When I mean everything, like how I deliver it to people, the fulfillment starts from there. The actual price modeling starts from there. As we kind of waterfall down, and this, I alluded to it earlier, but I have more lower tier products that aren't designed to make me rich, are designed to build trust with the right people, right? Those right people are ultimately customers and clients later on. Because a lot of, again, one of these like platitudes, axioms is like, give away everything for free. And it's like, okay, well, if you do that, you're kind of training people to expect free.
Yeah.
What I do is I'll give you every insight for free, right? My thinking, the reasoning behind the choices that I make, revealing some stuff behind the curtain in terms of the idea, not the actual tactic. I'll give you all that for free, because I want to invite you into a way of thinking. I want to invite you onto this train. After we get to that though, and like going down from the offer, I'll give you from start to finish on a small segment of my offer that you can use on demand, or I do a lot of the times live with people, because I think that's a great way to build trust, is like to actually be there talking with them after the presentation, after we kind of do the 0 to fulfilled. But that's not there to make me rich. That's there to just help build trust for when you want to move to my core offer. You get it. You understand it. And you just want to move at a faster pace. Below that, I'll give you a piece that, like, maybe it's a template you can fill out, like an offer template is an actual lead magnet that I have.
Yeah.
Right. Easy as possible. Taken from my offer workshop that is a segment of my core offer. I'll give you that for free. Because again, I want you to see behind the curtain of like, do you get it or not? Right? Are you actually in this journey or not? If you are, here's my version of this journey. I'll give it to you for free. Below that, now I have content that is leading towards, this is why you need your offer to look this way, right? That's for free. You can get it anywhere. And so everything, for me, simplicity is like everything comes from the offer. When I have that down, when I have it validated, my on-demand low-ticket products, or even cohorts or live workshops, are derived from that. My lead magnets are derived from that. Underneath that, I skipped a step, but we'd move to emails.
Yeah.
And then from emails, my content is derived from that. And so everything from, like, to me, I don't have to think about when I'm doing an open enrollment for my offer, for instance. I don't have to build up to this like insane launch. It's the same exact thing. It's just, have you gone through enough of the steps? Some people skip steps. Some people go straight from content to full-blown private student. Some people go from content to email to lead magnet, or I guess to lead magnet to email to low-ticket product to then full-blown private student. To, like, just, are you ready when the doors are open? And that keeps just a regular cadence for me to keep it simple. That's what I teach, people inside my private program is, with your offer, with your expertise, knowledge, insight, how do we start from the offer and then just build that all out?
Gotcha. So it's like the ascension process specifically,
Exactly.
but a lot of nurturing. So it's like very common in like the info space, right? Like
Absolutely.
the ascension process. So do you feel like, let's say for the average solopreneur who's watching this, doesn't have a huge audience, doesn't have a huge email list, whatever, right? Just they're doing well, but they're looking to, get clients, make money. Would you encourage them to build out the whole thing, or just start with one lead magnet and one offer, or like give us like the sort of spotlight on how you would encourage like the average solopreneur? Because of course, like I know somebody listening to this might be like, wow, I have to build out like an email sequence and then in this and then that, like it's a lot, right? So where do you think someone should just start to just get like the best results they can, and then they can build out everything like over the next year or 6 months or whatever?
Without giving everything away,
Yeah.
what I would say is you start with like the dream offer. It's the dream in terms of you're working with the dream client, you're providing them the dream transformation, and they're paying the dream price to work with you, right? Part of that should scare you. There's ways that I work with people to figure this out, but if you're listening right now, the transformation, the dream transformation, should be measurable, right? It should be measurable by time. There's 3 eternal markets. This isn't an original idea by me. This is universal. There are 3 eternal markets: health, wealth, and happiness, right? Or wellness. Health is lose weight, gain weight in terms of muscle, or improve hygiene, or kind of like the 3 big buckets. There's more smaller buckets. Wealth is save money, stay legal, or make more money, right? Wellness is a little bit harder. It has to deal with relationships generally. It can deal with status, which is also very hard. But what you want is that outcome to be clear, right? Lose X amount of weight, gain X amount of muscle, make X amount of money, secure X amount of dates, right? Or the bare bones simplest, right? It's not become more fulfilled at your work. That's not a measurable outcome. Okay. The next thing is, if you're like seriously building this from scratch, workshop out 3 steps it would take to reach that dream outcome, measure the dream measurable outcome. First thing you need to do is this. Second thing you need to do is this. Third thing you need to do is this. Okay. That's going to take you farther than probably 90% of people right there. If you have no audience or a small audience, you're going to take that offer and you're through conversation, you're kind of the master at this. I would validate it in the DMs with your network, or there's ways you can do it. You probably talk to Darian if you really wanted to take this seriously, but with more cold outreach. Before you even think like, how do I make this into a sale? How do I make an audience into a sales engine? You want to validate it via conversations. Once you do that, once you've proven that it can sell, then you can start to make a lead magnet out of it. Then you can start to focus more on the content so you can get inbound leads and sales through it. But really, like, I know the whole ascension kind of waterfall that I drew out is like a lot of different elements to it. Like if you don't have a core offer, even just pressure tested in the actual market, like you've gotten feedback on it or you've gotten it validated. If you don't even have that, building everything else it's kind of just running on a hamster wheel because you don't even know the core offer. Do people want it? And that's going to be the core engine of your entire business. That's the real moneymaker, right? The live master classes that I do, the on-demand courses that I have, those aren't the ones that are like putting food on my table and causing my wife to stay with me and not leave me for some other guy, right? The core offer is. So
Let's go.
Yeah. So I would focus on that above all. And once you have that, you're ahead of 90% of people in the space, I would say.
Dude, that was awesome, man. Yeah. I mean, thanks for so much value, dude. Hopefully people watching that take some action on what you just said there, because I think it's pretty much the whole game right there, man. So thank you for that, man. All right, cool. Well, one of the last things I really wanted to ask you was I think when I introduced you, we started chatting about your audience and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people see that and think, I want that. But the thing that stands out to me, of course, in my whole philosophy around creating assets and this whole show is around becoming an asset creator, is your email list, right? When I see 11,000 plus subscribers on your email list, I mean, to me, that's way more valuable, probably 10 times more valuable than just 100,000 audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk about how you actually grew your list. I mean, I know you've been in the space for a while. I'm sure some of it just has to do with just time and sticking with it. But dude, I really wanted to talk about that because I think that is one of the most valuable assets. It's in my Trinity. It's called an owned asset. It's something that you own. We should all have at least one owned asset. And so, dude, let's talk about it. How you grew it, and yeah, let's get to it.
Yeah. So I'll go in like two ways. There's like the foundational side of like how you actually grow the right list. And then we'll get into like just straight up tactical, how you take eyeballs from the internet and turn it into an email lead. So foundationally, what's cool is what my philosophy is right now. And like my teaching principles are now is like your email list is grown from the offer. So what do I mean by that is like, again, you have this vehicle, it's heading in a specific direction at a specific speed. That's your offer. Parts of that offer turn into lead magnets. And the reason someone gives you something intimate like an email address is because they want that information. They want that knowledge, that insight, and they trust you enough that you're going to help progress them forward. If you don't have that guiding vehicle, it's hard to make effective lead magnets or effective calls to action for someone to give up an email address, right? So for instance, mine is I give you a straight up offer template. Okay. In terms of like how to validate that offer, how to get it double and triple checked by either a community or me, like that's all stuff you have to pay for.
Of course.
But if to like understand the structure of how it can be, I'll give you that for free. And you'll be blown away when you get it. You'll be like, damn, I never thought about offers like this. I stand behind that. My offer helped me get to that lead magnet. Once you have that, again, part of this is going to throw away like how I've gotten to 11,000 because I can check and see that there are people on my email list from 7 years ago of when I wasn't even talking about the stuff that I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
What's cool is like they've bought into it enough. They trust me enough that they're here on the journey, you know? But to have a targeted email list that knows what they're getting and knows where they're heading, setting up the foundation is super important. From a tactical side, and again, this is where having the steps, again, I call it the path, but having the steps of an offer is very important. I help you reach an outcome. To get there, we take 3 steps together, right? I help you reach a certain income threshold with your creator business. The 3 steps we take to get there is we build or we fix your offer, we dial in your lead funnel, and then we convert through simple conversations. That's the path. How do we reach that income threshold? Is we dial in your offer, we dial in your lead funnel, and we dial in your conversions. I have 3 lead magnets, each referring to those 3 steps of the offer.
Nice.
Right? I will test those 3 over the course of time of what people want the most. Do they want content templates for a lead funnel? Do they want conversation methods that help you convert? Or do they want structuring an offer? Right now, people want structuring an offer. So I'm leaning more into that. But maybe my content, my piece of content, hypothetically, let's say goes out tomorrow, talks about conversions. People reading that are probably going to want help in conversions. So my lead magnet is going to reflect that. And that's why, again, to me, everything starts with the offer and it makes it so much simpler. Is my piece of content is going to talk about offer creation. My lead magnet, is going to be about offers. My piece of content is going to be about targeted content and lead funnels. My lead magnet is going to reflect that. So there's always alignment there. There's ways like I personally use different web apps to schedule out my content and have it auto plug my calls to action.
Yeah.
We can get into like more tactical sides of like how I write my calls to action and things like that. But from 35,000 feet, I make sure my content aligns with my lead magnet, and my lead magnets are always downstream of my core offer.
Yeah, dude. I think one of the big themes I keep hearing throughout this call is just the congruency, right? From top to bottom. Offer, absolute foundation. Everything comes from that. Everything leads back to that. And I think that's something really easy for people to overlook because, once again, they get caught up trying to go viral or playing these different games where none of them actually lead to what they're actually trying to do. And you and I both know, I mean, you can spend hours online creating content, engaging, doing all of these things. And it's like, if you're spending all this time, you want to make sure that you're doing it, to obviously make money, help people, but also, you're getting the most out of your time. And so, dude, I really love that, that's your main focus and you're encouraging people to do that, because what's the point of spending hours a day doing this stuff if you're just trying to get some likes, right?
Well, it's so refreshing. Like whenever I onboard new clients, it's so refreshing in our calls when they be like, your system just makes so much sense. I was just finally ready to pull the trigger, because every step along the way it was congruent, right? I'm not going to take you on this, like Monday is going to be about, I don't know. I mean, it's LinkedIn. So Monday is going to be about 8 questions you should always ask in an interview. And then Tuesday is going to be about offer creation. And I only did Monday because I knew it was going to get like that. Doesn't work. You know what I mean? And so everything always has to have alignment. And when you do that, it does not matter what you write, as long as it falls in that bucket, where ultimately when someone wants to give you their hard-earned money because they want to make a change in their life, they trust you enough and your worldview makes sense enough that they've bought into that long before they've actually typed in their credit card, like
Totally.
all of that's already taken care of because you were aligned every step of the way for them.
Yep. Yeah, man. Love it. And it also just keeps it simple for them too, right? Like when somebody comes into your world, they're like, oh, here's the roadmap. I can see what I need to do. And then there's like checkpoints, and it's just clear, because it's going to get rid of a lot of overwhelm too, right? Like you said, if someone's like, teaching them to write content like, oh, Monday's going to be this, and then Tuesday's like, it's just like so chaotic, right? And so, dude, yeah, I love that. Last thing I wanted to do while I still have you on the call, Jon, is I wanted to see if anybody asked any questions in the comments. So let me just go there really quick.
Sure.
I don't think my thing has been updating, so I actually don't even know how to check that. So let me just try something else really quick. I'm still new to this whole streaming thing. So let me see here.
Well, you're doing a great job.
Thanks, Jon.
I'm one commenter telling you straight away that I've had a blast doing this.
Oh, that's the real-time feedback is the best. So let me see what's going on here. Well, we had someone encourage us that they're excited to see us live. That's great. It doesn't look like we have any questions either. So, Jon, I wanted to finish with this, man. Is there any last things that you think just really important for solopreneurs to know on the journey? You've worked with so many. You've been doing it yourself. This whole show, Asset Creators, is for solopreneurs. So if there's any big takeaways or any last things you wanted to leave the audience with, yeah. If not, no pressure.
Yeah. One thing is, it's a guiding principle for me, is if some of the stuff that we've talked about, me and you, Darian, like to someone is like way over your head, don't compare your day one to someone's year 5, right? Like this online world is a death trap for comparison that causes like paralysis. So remember that as much as you can. Like I even deal with it, and I've been doing this for 9 years. There's people that I look at and I'm like, son of a, like, I'm so far behind. I'm not, right? Number 2 is I promise you, if you want help on your offer, go to my profile and get my free offer template. Shameless plug here. I promise you,
It's all you.
You have not seen a free resource more valuable than that. Unless Darian has one, then his is definitely more valuable. But yeah, do that again. Even if you take it and you unsubscribe right away, I do not care. It's there for you to learn something and improve your offer. And other than that, I would seriously, if you're at this place, like the stage where it's like, I don't know what the hell to even make content about in my niche, do what I did in the beginning of this conversation. Go to Quora, Quora.com, search weight loss, search digital marketing, search psychology, search mindset. I promise you there will be hundreds of prompts for you there to just treat as a playground. So
Beautiful. Jon, thank you so much, man. I'm just so grateful for your time and that you came on the show, man. It's a new show, and yeah, man, just lots of gratitude coming from me, man. And thanks so much for sharing with my audience, and hopefully some of your audience gets to see this as well. And appreciate you, man. I'm
definitely going to share it with my audience. Some people are saying that this is the greatest show that's happening right now on earth. I'm not saying that, but people are saying it.
And I wouldn't say that either. I wouldn't.
Right.
No.
So yeah, I've just been hearing about it.
All right,
so.
man. Well, that's good to know. Thanks for the feedback. All right, Johnny. I appreciate you, brother.
No worries, dude. Appreciate you.